I'll admit, I have gone a little bit mini PC review mad, haven't I? But this is a model from AliExpress, and it's been some time since I have reviewed the AliExpress models, and there have been about 4 or 5 people in the last couple of months emailing me and saying, please review it, please review it. So I decided I'd pull the trigger on it because I saw it on special. So for around about 580 euros, I picked this one up, and it has 16 gigabytes of RAM, 512 gigabyte NVMe drive. The wireless is already pre-installed. Windows 10 Home is on this, so it's ready to go. And of course, powered by a Core i9 10880H. Now that's 45 watt processor with 8 cores and 16 threads. So it's a hell of a lot of power in quite a good quality build case that this has, and plenty of ports. It can run 3 displays out to this mini PC. Inside the box, you will find a quick start guide, some screws. This is to install a 2.5-inch drive. Our power supply, so this one has a maximum output of 90 watts, and it is using that Mickey Mouse style connector, as you can see. You know why I call it a Mickey Mouse plug, because, well, it looks a little bit like a Mickey Mouse face there. So what you can do with this too is replace the cable if the one included, of course, is not for your country. So this is the EU plug that they have given me from that AliExpress shipper that I have used. Now this one is looking a lot different to the other ones that I have reviewed in the channel, the mini PCs, these AliExpress ones that have then, of course, the notebook CPUs in them. This one has the Core i9. It is the 10880H. Now that is 8 cores, 16 threads. So we have up here a microphone or a reset button. I haven't quite figured this out yet. I think it could actually just be a mic. Power on, 2 USB 3 ports, USB-C there. Now this supports video out, 4K 60, and then on the rear we have the rest of the ports. So 2 USB 2s, 2 USB 3s again. We have HDMI 2.0A, so that's 4K 60 max, and then DisplayPort 1.4A, also 4K 60 max, and then 2 gigabit LAN ports. You have to kind of move the antenna here to get it out of the way, which is a bit of a poor design there with this. 3.5mm out with mic support. The DC plug in there, so of course this is going to get in the way a little bit. The wireless antennas, they move around a little bit. Now you can replace these antennas. You could use something else. You could also get the cable extensions and then set the antennas in a different place, but I don't like how they've done that. Now you can see plenty of ventilation. This is one of the positives about this. The whole bottom is just all so open, as you can see with all the vents. The cooler's just inside there. We'll take a look at that shortly as I open this up. So there are no other ports on it, and the left and the right, just big vents there again, so massive amount of airflow can come through, which is very, very good to see with this newer updated design of these mini PCs. And then finally the top of it, all made out of metal. It has this Intel Core logo there on the top, which is not actually a sticker. It seems to be like painted on, or maybe it is a sticker, that whole part there, but I cannot just pull that off. You may be able to do this, but I won't try that. I'll just leave it how it is. Brings me on now to the internals for upgrades if you were going to be doing this. Now this model comes with the RAM, with the storage already. You can buy a bare bones model too if you had the parts and you wanted to use them, but it seems like a good deal that it included everything. So 2 screws here that I have removed, and then this plate just lifts up and then we can take it, slot it out, which is a little difficult to do so, but no, it actually comes out quite easy. So here is the hard drive that they have installed and the RAM. So this is 16 gigabytes. And then we have a 512 gigabyte NVMe drive, and I will benchmark this to see the speeds. Now the wireless card that they have gone with is a slightly different one here, and I will probably end up replacing this with an Intel AX200. They are quite cheap now to get and install and upgrade the wireless, but good that we had this possibility. On the underside of the lid, you will find where we can install the 2.5-inch hard drive, although my box, for some stupid reason, doesn't have the cables I need to be able to run it, because the SATA 3 cable and then the power cable, the connectors, it looks like it is here, all of that, but where's the cable? Why is it not included in the box? So that's something I have to contact the seller about, and hopefully they can send it to me. The underside of the mini PC does have one possible expansion port here. Well, we have an NVMe/SATA 3 slot, so 4 screws. I've undone those, and this thin alloy plate that comes off, and it exposes now the internal. So very large cooler on this, and this is, well, it's a desktop class cooler in this mini PC, which is, again, really good to see. And as I mentioned, all the ventilation. It's just all around everywhere, so it can suck in plenty of nice, fresh, cool air. So it's just down here. It's right there. We have that NVMe slot, and oh, there's no screw. So they didn't even give us the, oh no, hang on, we do have that screw, sorry. That is here. I've got that screw. So the screw for that one at least is included, and you can add an additional up to 8 terabytes here of NVMe storage. Now the RAM stick that they have used, this is just a SODIMM 16 gigabyte single stick, which if you're getting this configuration, something to be aware of, because I assumed, like most manufacturers, they would have gone with dual 8 gigabyte sticks. So this, if you want to run it in dual channel, you'd have to buy yourself another 16 gigabyte stick. And you can see there it is. That's the spec of it. So this is DDR4 2666, and the timing's there. So what I'm going to do is, for the purposes of this review, just to look at the maximum performance, I will upgrade this and make sure I run 32 gigabytes, so in dual channel. Here we are first in the BIOS. So we have some good news. This is completely unlocked, so you can change and tweak various different settings. The more interesting ones would be our power levels. If you wanted to adjust and tweak those, maybe up or down, undervolting, that can be done through the performance menu. But I do recommend using Intel's Extreme Tuning utility first with the software in Windows before applying it at the hardware level. You can adjust things like, for example, the memory speeds. If you did have memory that has Intel's Extreme memory tuning profiles, then you can go and set that in here to run the RAM at a faster speed, which I've done with this RAM here, which is currently running at 3.2 gigahertz, or should at least. This is some HyperX RAM that I've tested out. So I've gone with dual channel because they only included 16 gigabytes, a single channel, and I just want to see the maximum performance we can get out of this. So now into Windows, and we'll take a look at the Windows 10 image they have used. So this particular PC is set up with Windows 10 Pro, and it does seem to have a legit license. I haven't encountered any problems so far. It hasn't come up saying that I need to validate the license or activate Windows. No problem there. Now, it did come with everything all set up, so it just went straight into Windows. And I don't particularly like that. I would probably redo everything if I was going to be keeping and hang on to this mini PC, installing my own files for security reasons. So the disk installed the hard drive, that NVMe. The brand of it is a Shiji. Never heard of this one before. It could be popular, but not a known common one, at least. 512 gigabytes NVMe, and the speeds here you can see with Crystal Disk Mark that, I mean, it's okay. It's not quite, say, a Samsung 970 EVO or some of the Sabrent drives that I've reviewed, but for an included drive, those speeds aren't too bad at all. Now, the fastest you could probably get out of this will be, of course, around 3,500 sequential reads and writes. So it does fall a little bit short of that. Now, the RAM, I've just confirmed that my RAM I'm running in this, it does run in dual channel, and the speed is 3.2 gigahertz. Now, a couple of interesting things to point out with this particular chip. That this one in here is the Core i9. It is the 10880H. Now, it is ES, you can see here, which means engineering sample. When you take a look at the all the coding of it and everything, the revision, that yes, it's an engineering sample that they are using, and that's probably why they're offering them at this price. I don't know whether they're going to be using normal ones, because this doesn't even show up in Intel's ARC, their website. It's actually a different model, slightly different, which is the 10885H, which is higher. So the turbo on this one is 4.9, the maximum, 8 cores, 16 threads, and 45 watts is the TDP out of the box with this. And that wireless card that is pre-installed with this model, if you were to buy their configured one already and not just the bare bones, this is a Qualcomm Atheros QCA 9377. Now, this is wireless AC. If you wanted wireless AX, I recommend installing and buying yourself the Intel AX200 or 201 to get around that. And then the 2 gigabit LAN ports on there, Realtek ones, these. So how is the performance of this one? Everything in Windows feels very quick and snappy. Now, this feels just as fast as my Ryzen 9 desktop for Windows performance. In and out of your Windows, everything like that. I won't show you documents or spreadsheet use that I show on lower end mini PCs, because this one just powers through absolutely everything with its 8 cores, 16 threads. Video playback. So this is a demanding file here. There's 4K 60. That is just flawless. It's very quick, smooth, great performance there. A 10-bit HEVC file. Couple of little glitches at the start. Well, not glitches, it's tiny little stutters, a few drop frames. But no, it is also very good, this performance. No problems really with that. So it's great at media files. It's great at just general computing, super fast. In fact, it's really an overkill for that. So other performance. So this is Cinebench R20. Now, the single core score is okay. The multi-core score just getting over 3,000 points here. It's good, but it's still some way off what you can get out of the Ryzen 7, the 4800H, for example. Now, I do have a mini PC that I've just bought off AliExpress also, and that one is coming. So I do hope to review that soon in the channel. And that does get a lot better performance. You can get at least about 1,000 points more. So this is where it's disappointing. It's somewhat restricted a little, this particular CPU. And I'll get onto those reasons shortly. But here is Geekbench scores here. So Geekbench 5. Very good. Single core score there. That's great. Multi-core score as well. I mean, that is excellent. That's a great score. So it is a beast. It's a powerhouse of a CPU, but it could actually do a little bit better. Geekbench 4, I just wanted to run this anyway, just to see the single core score. Anything over 5,000, that is really, really good. Multi-core score. I was expecting this to be actually over 30,000, so a little bit lower than expected there. And the integrated graphics, this is 3D Mark's Night Raid. It recommended for integrated graphics. So, yeah, not a good score. CPU score is good, but the graphics score, yeah, that Vega would beat it, definitely. AMD's Vega 7, Vega 10 graphics is superior to the Intel UHD graphics. So why is it not quite as I had expected with the performance? So what's happening when I've been checking and monitoring this for the last hour or so that I've been running it, stress testing, and in fact, it's been a couple of days I've had this mini PC up and running, is that it will lower the clocks down across all of the 8 cores. So what we're going to see is a lot of this current limit throttling, and it could be to do with the VRMs. I think it's the power supply as well there. That's probably a bit of a problem too. And the core just doesn't seem to clock up those cores as high as they could or maintain that. And we do run into thermal throttling. So power limit throttling will take place. Thermal throttling is going to be there. And the fan noise, I'll get onto that shortly, is, well, when it's under load, you'll definitely hear it. Now, power consumption. This is very high under max load. So this is when stress testing it. Things like Cinebench R20 really, really push this super hard. And it will pull a surprising 155 watts, which is a lot considering the power supply is 90 watts. We're going way over this. So the power supply as a result does get quite hot. And I believe that the supplier of this mini PC should be shipping this out with a 150 watt power supply, or 180 watt would be so much better. Now at idle, it's not that great. It's about 13 watts, sometimes 15, even sometimes 20. And just running Chrome, I did a little test. Chrome with only 5 tabs open, swapping between them. And this is a very light workload. Power consumption at my wall meter would be around 30 to 50 watts. So it does burn through the power. It's not so efficient there. It's 14 nanometers. It's not as good, again, as the 7 nanometer we have with the AMD that I will be reviewing later on in the channel. So the temperatures, oh, I don't need to run that again because I've been monitoring this. The thermal throttling, that's been taking place. What about temps? So it will peak at 90 degrees. I haven't seen it go over 90, but to trigger 90, to get there, or just before it, I think it's 89 degrees, that's when it starts to thermal throttle. As you can see there, thermal throttling on all of the cores apart from core 1 took place here. So not good to see. That restricts the performance, even though the cooler touching it feels cool to the touch and the fan is quite loud. It just really, we're not getting the maximum performance. I'm estimating getting at least about, well, 70% or so of the possible performance we could out of this. And that's probably because of the compact form factor and the power supply and the VRMs. They just don't want us to push this too hard, this mini PC. Otherwise, we risk frying something on the motherboard. Probably that's the reasoning behind it. But here is a sample now of the fan noise at 100% load, which it is quite loud. It gets loud. Gaming performance now. So this just has the 10th gen Intel UHD graphics and really not that good. So with Grand Theft Auto, I have it's set to 720p resolution and the lowest possible settings. And this is behind Vega graphics that we will get with AMD. So the AMD's Vega 7 and the Vega 10 would have at least 20 to 15 frames per second more than this. So the game is at 720p. It's playable, as you can see, with the frame rate I'm getting, but not brilliant performance. Let's have a look at a lighter title, which is Counter-Strike. So this is faring a little better. We're getting only about 50 frames per second. However, right now, which, not amazing. So really, if you wanted to game, of course, you would not be using integrated graphics. So I have it on low settings, lowest possible, but 1080p this one. I think it's okay at 1080p. If you want a slight boost in the frame rate, then of course run it at 720p. 60 frames per second here at the moment. And the highest I've seen it get up to is around 100, 110. But when there's smoke effects and things on screen, it will dip down to about 30 frames per second. Like right now. Oh, am I shooting friendlies there? Hopefully not. Oh, I picked up a gun at the wrong time. So I didn't last long like I never do with my really bad CS. Counter-Strike gameplay is just absolutely terrible. But as you can see, what's even worse is really the graphics performance here. Not good from that Intel UHD graphics for 10th gen. Lastly, Linux support. It does work just fine on there. Grab the latest distro, your favorite one out there. This is Linux Mint, which I prefer. Everything works. Wireless is working. All good. I'm having no issues. And it is blazing fast. Really quick. This hardware running Linux just so good. So fast. Okay, so all up, it's a bit of a mixed bag here with this mini PC. Sure, it has a lot of power. Single core performance is good. And the 8 cores, 16 threads means that you can multitask on this thing like crazy. However, it's not performing to its peak, really, because there is some current limit throttling going on. It will hit power limit throttling. And then we also have thermal throttling. 90 degrees C is what it's getting up to. So the cool, even though when I touch it, it feels cool to the touch, the CPU is still peaking and hitting those temperatures, which is not great to see. So it could go better. It could do more, this particular chipset. But I believe because of the tiny little PCB that this is on, and then the power supply, the manufacturer of this, or the ODM, has really restricted the performance of this. I've seen it before in the other 8-core models. So really with these models, I think you're better off just getting the 4-core models, or the 6-core models, you could say, the 10th gen Intel ones, and hopefully later on they'll have 11th gen. Now there are a few other things to point out. That I discovered that the HDMI, apparently HDMI 2 port that they're advertising material, the press material does state that, isn't. It's HDMI 1.4 because I'm testing with all my 4K monitors here and I'm just getting 4K 30 Hertz. That's the maximum, so not 4K 60. But the display port and then the Type-C port, yes, does support the 4K 60. So you can run 3 monitors, but one of them will be limited to 4K 30 maximum, unfortunately. So it comes configured with the 16 gigabytes in single channel, which is both a good thing and a bad thing, because if you wanted to later on buy yourself another 16 gigabytes, and then you had 32 in dual channel, but out of the box, it's single channel performance. So what I showed you was pretty much the best performance you can expect running dual channel, and it did support my HyperX memory with its XMP profile 1 of 3.2 gigahertz. So fast RAM, really good single core performance, great multi-core performance, even though it is restricted a little. Gaming performance, downright, well, terrible considering the spec of it. And that is where you could, with this mini PC, it will work, is connect up this. This I have a review of. I've got about 2 or 3 videos on it as well. This is an external GPU, so it's NVMe to our PCIe, and you can run an external GPU. You could run even something like an RTX 3090 or 3080 if you wanted to. It is possible to do so with that setup, and you can use it because there's gaps in this particular case. The cable fits in and you can just route it through the back of it. So it actually works out quite fine for that. For those of you out there that did intend to game and you'd have a setup like this on your desk, which isn't super small. So in the box, we are missing, at least for my order, I'm missing the SATA 3 cable and the power cable, which is disappointing. I need to get in touch with the seller to tell them to send it over to me because I do need it. I want to put a 2.5-inch drive into it. So the storage, you can expand upon it with the extra slot. That's a positive there. So all up, downright disappointing, I feel a little bit. I really think probably the AMD ones are going to be better, and I have just bought one. It's shipped, and I'm waiting for it to arrive. It is a Ryzen 7 4800H model. So the H model is 45 watts, should perform better than the U models that I've reviewed, say the likes of the Asus Mini PC. So that will be up and coming in the channel. That will keep you AMD guys happy too as well. And I'm sure that even though it sells for around $580 US, it will definitely be a lot better than this mini PC performance-wise. It's a bare bones, however, so it doesn't include the RAM or the SSD that this one does have. So thanks a lot for watching this mini PC. There will be so many more mini PC reviews up and coming, so do subscribe, stay tuned to the channel if, of course, you are interested in these reviews of mine.